Welcome to Win Souls TV again, my friend. This is Jeff, also known as Bright Evangelist. Now, I have an amazing treat for you guys. I got to use some note cards today, guys. This is an amazing testimony, and I don't want to miss any part of it. Side note, if you do have testimonies, be sure to write them down or get you an audio voice recorder, which is what I use because sometimes I'm just on the go and I don't want to forget what the Lord is doing. So this thing has come in some serious handy right here. Now, so to begin this testimony, let me give you a little bit of background. So I moved out to Oklahoma about 5 years ago. And I'm a Georgia boy. I'm from Atlanta. And so with that said, I go back home every Christmas or when someone gets married or, you know, sometimes during specific holidays. And then I just come right back here. So I go back home not very frequently. So going home for Christmas is kind of a big thing for me. So I go home for about a week and a half or 2 weeks. And one of the things that the Lord led me to pack this past time that I went was this. It's basically just a handkerchief, and it's basically claiming in Acts 19:11 through 12 what the Lord was doing through Paul with great miracles. So much so where that if he took off his clothes or gave a handkerchief, that people were just being healed and delivered from demons and evil spirits and all of the sorts. Now, and illnesses and sicknesses and all that good jazz. Now, the reason that I was saying that, the reason that I prefaced with that is because later in the testimony, all of that will make sense. Now, so usually I go back home for Christmas, and this specific time I was just like, you know, Lord, I want you to use me like crazy. I want you to go buck wild using me. Lose your mind losing me. Please, I'm willing. I want to go. Use me. If you ain't got nobody else, all right, give it to me. You know what? If you did give it to somebody else, give it to me. I want to use it. Sprinkle it on me. Give it to me, Lord. So, and boy, did he. And so I've always wanted to be used to deliver messages to people. I've always wanted to be used to be able to just look at people and know specific things about them. Well, one of the books that I had been listening to as an audio book was Seeing in the Spirit Made Simple by Praying Medic. Now, let me go ahead and tell you this. Don't just read these books. Knowledge isn't power. Don't just collect a book and just read it and put it on your bookshelf after you're done. Applied knowledge is power. Knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. So it doesn't become power, and you won't see these things working in your life until you begin to apply them. So get out there and start doing it, folks. So I asked the Lord to use me. And I had been listening and reading that book over and over and over and over and over in my mind. And it really taught me a lot about seeing in the Spirit, how it's not necessarily always about seeing in open visions. You can also see pictures that the Lord paints in your mind, and he can also use those to show you specific things about people, as well as using them for a word of knowledge, for a message that he wants you to deliver. Now, let me dig into the testimony. So, I get on this plane, and originally I had an inside seat right by the window. I don't like those seats because near the window, the wall right there is curved, and I don't like bending my knee and all of that stuff. That's just and with that said, there was a girl sitting in the middle. So I asked, I said, you know, can I switch with you? And so we switched. Now there was a guy that was supposed to be sitting on the end or the aisle seat. Now he had switched, or there was a lady that was supposed to be sitting there. He had switched with this lady, right? Now I didn't know while I'm sitting in the middle that the guy on the aisle seat and the girl at the window seat were married. right? So me and the guy switched, and she sat in the middle, he sat at the window seat, and it all worked out. Well, I get to talking to him, and I had my wedding ring on at the time. I'm not married to anyone in the world, but I had a wedding ring on at the time simply because as a resemblance of my commitment to God. And so basically I was asking him, hey, how long have you guys been married and all this, that, and the other, and he said that I forgot what he said, maybe about 4 or 5 years. And I said, okay. And then he asked me, how long have you been married? I said, well, it's a funny thing. I'm not married to a woman, but I am married to the Lord. And I wear this as a reminder to my commitment, for my commitment to Him. And in my mind, I saw one word, and it said share. Share. So immediately, I didn't know what the Lord wanted me to share, but I went to my bread and butter testimony. And my bread and butter testimony is when I began to walk with the Lord after living in the world consistently, like all the time, feeling comfortable living in the world. Didn't even want to come to God. And I put that testimony in the cards for you guys. And so, I'm sharing that testimony and this and that, and we get to talking and stuff, and then I also began to share about how I had a very legalistic mindset, very legalistic, really wanted to be in control. I was very religious, and the Lord brought me out of that. Well, and He also brought me through deliverance as well. So with that, I didn't realize this also at the time, but He also taught me that I had the mindset of a slave. And a slave thinks like, oh, well, if I do this, then my master will do this for me. That's not how Jesus works. That's not how Jesus works at all. Because the Lord and Jesus will love you regardless of what you are struggling with. Regardless of what you are struggling with. You don't have to do specific works in order for Him to get to feel differently about you or to do specific things for you. Honestly, I feel like that's kind of manipulative in a way. So if you are seeking God only to get Him to do something for you, then first of all, He already knows that. And then 2, good luck trying to get those things to happen. So the right mindset of seeking God is to just seek Him, just to want to get to know Him. And those things will just be added unto you, just like the word says. So I said that, right? And the Lord told me in my mind, He said, she's very legalistic and she likes to be in control. And so I shared that with the wife, and I'm talking with her about that. I'm talking with her about that because she just seemed so sweet. And so it was hard for me to, honestly, I'm going to be honest. It was hard for me to believe the Lord when He was literally standing on my right side, whispering these things in my ear. I couldn't see Him, but I could feel Him. And He was telling me the wife is very, very legalistic, and she likes to be in control. She's even tried to control her husband. And so I'm sharing these things for a specific reason. And so I'm talking with her about these things, and honestly, like, I don't like necessarily being hard on people, but with the fire and the desire that the Lord has given me, a lot of times He uses me to correct situations sometimes. And so I was correcting that situation, and thank the Lord, they were very open to it. They were listening. And so from there, I began to talk about seeing in the Spirit and my the beginnings of it, and how I was a little bit scared, and sometimes sometimes I would even back myself up in the corner because it was just like I just had no gauge for some of the stuff that I was seeing. It was just like, man, I can't even be in my own house without seeing little heat waves of stuff moving through the house and all kind of stuff. I mean, I would be laying on my bed and it would be just like, in this area right here, my bedroom's in there, little heat waves of like in the shape of people walking past my bedroom, and I'm just like, huh, you know. And it was very interesting, but I didn't realize this, but the angels were praying over my house at the time. Well, when I was giving these types of testimonies to those people on the plane, what happened was I left out the part where I truly began to see, and one that came from deliverance from a porn addiction, and masturbation, and even a sex addiction. And two, from when I forgave someone. It happened when I forgave someone, and deliverance as well. So with that, I left that part out. And so I keep talking, and the Lord said, no, I want you to go back to it. I want you to share the part about porn, because the husband is struggling with that right now. And I said, okay. So I shared the porn testimony. And if you haven't heard that, if you're struggling with any type of addiction, here's that up here right now. So, I shared the porn testimony. And what happened was, right after that, he said to me, he was just like, man, I was just talking with her about that. He was talking about his wife. I was just talking with her about that, and how he was struggling with that, and how that was really affecting his marriage, because it deals with a lot of fantasy in the mind, and that fantasy is demonic, first of all. And also, when you bring that into a godly relationship, that's not the model that he's necessarily created for that relationship, and it doesn't glorify God with the falsities that you have, that Satan is planting within your mind, and this world is planting within your mind. So I was just like, man, this is so cool. Like right there in the moment, he's talking to me, they're talking to me, I'm talking. It's just so great. This word of knowledge is just amazing. And so then the Lord let me know. I paused for a minute, and it was quiet for a little while, and I'm just listening to him. And he said to me, he said, he doesn't feel comfortable in a leadership position, but he is a teacher. And I said, okay, I'm gonna share that. And I said, you moving toward being a teacher? And he was like, I just talked to my pastor at church, and he wanted me to. They're grooming me to be a teacher, and I want to teach. I'm great at it. I love teaching, and this, that, and the other. And right when he was saying I'm great at it, the Lord was saying, I've given him that gift. And I said, well, that's the Lord. That's the gift that the Lord has given you. And he said, wow, that's great. And so everything was quiet for a second, and so I said to him. And the Lord led me to say this. He said, don't worry about being a great leader. Don't worry about being a great leader. Because what happens is, all you need to do is just read the word. The word will consecrate you. The word will bring you to a state with the Lord, with your submission and your servantship with the Lord, to the point where even just as a servant, you are a leader. You are a leader. You're being used as a servant leader. And with that, your dependency upon the Lord, he'll lead you with what to say. You don't have to figure up anything. Just rest it all on him. And he also told me to tell him not to worry about being a father. Not to worry about being a father. Because with his relationship with the true Father, our Father here is supposed to be a resemblance or a direct mirror of what our Father is in heaven. And by spending good amounts of time with the Lord, and by reading the Word and allowing it to consecrate you, you have no choice but to become closer and to become an image of Him. And so he said, don't worry about that. And the guy's eyes got so big. He knew that he was hearing from God. His eyes almost popped out of his skull. He was like, she's pregnant. And I said, yeah, I know. Because while I was talking, the Lord told me that she was pregnant, but she wasn't showing. And so I said, yeah, no. He told me that. And he said, man, this is so great. Now, when he told me that, the Lord told me that they had there is forces of the enemy that is trying to work against them concerning that pregnancy, and it's been in the bloodline. But I didn't say anything about it at that time. And while we were on, I let the Lord lead me to that later in the conversation. Now, while we were on the topic of father, I leaned over to his wife and I said, how's your relationship with your father? Because the Lord told me that she's very unforgiving. And the Lord also told me that that he wanted me to let her know specific things. And I said, okay. That's all I said. Okay. And so I asked her about her relationship with her father, and she said, well, as a kid, our relationship wasn't that good. She said, I forgive him. But the only thing is that he was never really there. I just wanted my father, but he was trying to work so much, trying to take care of us, that I never really got a chance to see my father. And she wanted that more than anything. She said he was a great dad. It's just that she said she wished that she had had more time with him. And so she said that she had forgiven him. And the Lord is on my right side saying, no, she hasn't. No, she hasn't. And I said, okay, well, instead of just beating her up about it, I'm going to teach her a model of forgiveness so that when she's ready, Lord, you can lead her through this. And so I taught her through a model of forgiveness. And that same model of forgiveness is right here in this video. Now, I'm not just trying to promote my videos, but what I'm trying to, the whole purpose of me telling you these specific things is that these specific things aren't only for these people. It's not only for myself. These are things that he's taught me that he wants me to teach others. And with that said, you can use them to teach other people. It's like a ripple effect. Once you gain something from the Lord, he can use that to impact so many other people's lives. All you have to do is just be willing. That's all. And so basically I taught her the model of forgiveness, which is up here. And then after that, the Lord told me that this nice little facade that she puts on is because of the simple fact that she had been so fed up with her past, so fed up with being hurt in her past, whether it was through her father or specific relationships and this, that, and the other. And the Lord, I said, okay, Lord, you sure you want me to go ahead and say that? And he got quiet. And I said, all right, I'm going. And so I said, the Lord told me to tell you that change happens from the inside out. Allow him to change you. Don't try to put on a facade and push things to the back of your head, because that is not changing the issue. That is not changing the issue, and you will not grow from it. He is the provoker of all change. He is the one who will provide the change in your life, the lasting change in all things, in all facets of life. He is the one. And when I said that, she started crying. And the Lord told me to tell her that somewhere along in her life, she said that she got fed up. That's what he told me to tell her. And so what she did was she just created a little personality that was happy all the time. Regardless of whatever happened, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. It's one thing to be joyful, because, joy comes from the Lord. But when you try to do that yourself without him truly changing you, that's something else entirely. So allow him to change it. So the next thing was, he brought me back to the complications with the birth. And I said, you know, have you or anyone in your family experienced any type of problems with birth? And she said, oh my gosh, my mom almost died giving birth to me. And then the Lord told me, he said, the enemy has been trying to kill them off through birth almost every single time. It's been in their bloodline. So the Lord led me through spiritual warfare. And let me tell you, there is nothing that I love more in prayer than laying the smack down on the enemy. Now, you got to pick your battles. There's some places that you just don't want to go. There's some battles that you just don't need to be into. But if the Lord leads you there, lay the smack down on him all day long. Break your foot down his throat. I love breaking my foot down the enemy's throat. I just do. And twisting it sideways and kicking him out of your house, or kicking him out of people, or kicking him off of people. However you view it, I love doing it. And but you don't just dive in. But if the Lord leads you to it, you do it. And so that's what I did. That's what I did. And yeah, so the very last thing before we were about to get off the plane, after I said those types of prayers and prayers for healing and this, that, and the other, she was telling me about her aunt. I think it was the fact that when I was praying for the demonic activity, it brought to her mind that her aunt, they think that her aunt has been possessed in her household, and her son has been acting very weird. Her aunt's son, which is her cousin, her aunt's son has been acting really weird, and he's been beating up on his mom, and the mom has been doing all kinds of weird stuff. So they think that witchcraft has been put on the family. And so basically, that little handkerchief that I had packed, the Lord said, I want you to give that to them. And when you give it to them, what's going to happen is, as soon as it hits their household, it's going to shatter every strategy of darkness that the enemy has set on that land, on that household, and with whatever witchcraft and any demonic forces that are working against them. And so I was just like, Lord, we can send something else. I'm using this to pray over my sick grandmother who ended up passing away. But I was like, no, Lord. And now this is dialogue going on between me and him in my head. All right. I was like, no, Lord. I'm using this to pray over my grandmother who is sick. Okay. I was like, man, we can buy some candy in the airport, pray over that, blot out, send it to Mexico, and when it gets there, they can eat it. Bam, delivered. And he was like, no, give them the handkerchief. This was the purpose of you packing it. I said, okay. So I gave them the handkerchief. I told them the lowdown of what the deliverance that would take place, the healing that would take place, and the encampments of heaven that would enter in when that handkerchief was delivered. And they just kind of looked at me like I was crazy. But even now, the Lord has told me that they did send it. And he's showing me pictures, even while I'm sharing this with you guys right now on video. He's showing me pictures of the aunt and the son eating together. And the atmosphere of the house is really, really calm. It's peaceful. And so he did that for them. I never spoke to those people again, but he's letting me know now that those people are completely free. And he'll do that for you or for anybody that you're willing to do the miraculous things of God with or for or whatever he leads you to. Because he's not looking for somebody that's perfect. He's just looking for somebody that's willing. Honestly, good luck finding somebody that's perfect, because that doesn't exist. It was only one. But anyway, you guys be blessed. There's going to have to be a part 2 and 3 to this testimony, because after I got off the plane, it just went buck wild for the entire week that I was in Georgia. So this is a really long testimony, and I don't want to hold you guys for too long. So I'll keep posting these in different installments. You guys be blessed. Comment below. Tell me what has the Lord been doing for you guys lately? What has He shown you lately? It doesn't matter how small it is. Just comment, share, subscribe. Let us know. We want to develop a community where people can openly share testimonies of deliverance, of healing, seeing in the spirit, whatever it is that He is doing for you, even if it's not those things that are supernatural. In reality, they're just normal, but that are supernatural. Doesn't matter. What is the Lord doing for you? Share below. I like to hear it, because the power of that testimony is the spirit of prophecy. In Jesus' name, amen. Be blessed. Y'all have a good one.